Slingers, welcome back to another week of the Wordslinger podcast. I'm glad you joined me. Now, we're going to be talking to a good friend of mine. He's a local to me. We're talking to Matthew Thrush, and we're going to be talking about making a six-figure income through ghostwriting. So you're going to want to hang around. This is just in time for Halloween. See you on the inside.
It's the Wordslinger podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Well, I am Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger. I may not be the world's only Wordslinger, but I'm the only one I know about. So, thanks for tuning in. This is going to be another great week for the Wordslinger podcast. I'm talking to Matthew Thrush, and I'm gonna try not to I don't know why I would butcher the name Matthew, but I'm gonna. I'm talking to Matthew Thrush. He is this is a great guy. Now, he and I met a few years ago. He had self-published I believe it was a YA post-apocalyptic story, I believe. Sorry, Matthew, if I'm completely bombing that, but anyway, we got to hang out. We did a book signing and kind of an author speaking gig together at a high school in Angleton, Texas, and we've become fast friends. Now, he's on to something kind of cool. He's actually built a business around. Is that a plane fly over? Did you hear that? I heard that. Anyway, he's built a business around doing ghostwriting for people. Now, I've tried this. I've done this a couple of times. I like kind of the idea of it. This idea of someone paying you it's like having a patron who gives you money up front to write a book. But the downside for me is maybe I'm just too narcissistic. Maybe I'm just too self-aggrandizing. I'm not sure, but this isn't my book, and so I don't get to just do what I want. I only get to promote it the way I want. However, if I were doing this, if I needed to do something like this in order to make an income from my writing, if I were not particular about my name appearing on the cover of these books, this is a great source of income. There are people who are doing this, making a fantastic living. Matthew is one of those people. I mean, he's doing six figures. You're going to get to hear his story. So I think this is fantastic. I can't wait to see. He's got a program now that's meant to help people get into this. So that's what we're here promoting. We're going to be talking about that. Let me just read the topic to you. I mean, earning six figures is easier than someone thinks. Why they should consider it, and how to find clients and get paid. And he's got a program that's going to help you do just that. Really impressed by this. So we're going to dive right in to this interview with Matthew Thrush and learn how you can create your own six-figure ghostwriting business. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in, sticking around through the intro, and you're coming in on a great interview. I'm talking to, he's become a good friend of mine, Matthew Thrush. He's an author. He's also doing something very cool. I know you're going to want to hear all the details. I'm probably going to get 1,000 emails after this interview, Matthew. But Matthew is he's the co-founder of Six-Figure Ghostwriter. He's a #1 best-selling author of over 50 books, and he's a top-ranked ghostwriter and writing coach who specializes in mentoring aspiring writers to scale to six figures with ghostwriting. Man, that is that's a big one. That's a big ask right there. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hey, I can deliver.
You can deliver, yeah. And you and we've talked about this sort of off the record so far, so it's good to get you in front of the camera. Because I know there are a lot of, as well as I do, there are a lot of authors who listen to this show. Most people, when they think about being an author, they're thinking about getting their name on a book that's going to be front-facing at Barnes & Noble, or is going to top, the New York Times list or something like that. So ghostwriting is something it's come up before. I've talked to people about ghostwriting before, but what is it about your approach that? Well, first of all, let's dive into what you've started here. Six-figure ghostwriter. That's a big claim.
Yeah.
How did you get to that? What's your story, man?
So I'll briefly start with how I got there personally, and then I can shift in a little bit if you want in terms of the actual program and why we promise what we promise kind of deal.
Right.
So initially I had, and I still do, I had the goal and the dream, which most writers do, which is write your own books, sell millions, have them turn into movies, be famous, things of that nature, make a good living off of it.
Right.
And like you said, have your books in Barnes and Noble and other and store shops, or if you go to an airport, you can see it and everyone's talking about it. You know, I have that dream and I had it before, but my ultimate dream was to write full time, write books full time. So in March 2017 is whenever I made this commitment and goal to myself was I'm going to give, basically the goal was I'm going to quit my job by the end of the year to write novels full time. So that gave me 10 months to do it. I actually did it in less than 4 months. And I actually could have quit after 2 months, but I still was a little worried and fearful and had a little bit of a scarcity mindset still.
Yeah.
And I allowed myself 2 more months as buffer. And then I quit my job as a technical writer to do this full time because I was then at the time making over $10,000 per month. And that was more than double what I was getting as a technical writer. So basically it was like, hey, this is a good option for me to do it.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
So in terms of the Six-Figure Ghostwriter mentoring program, that is a 12-month mentoring program specifically designed to get people landing jobs within weeks, not months. So even though it's a 12-month program, the goal is help you find work fast,
right?
Scale up to 6 figures as quickly as possible. And we're trying to do that within the first few months or less. The rest of the time for the 12-month program is basically tweaking, minor, coaching and things of that nature as needed kind of deal to help you scale up to 6 figures. Because the goal is by 6 months, you're on your way to 6 figures by the end of the year kind of deal.
Yeah.
So and all of that is just based off of my personal method that I did to do it in less than 4 months.
Right.
So I already know it works because it works for me. And then I've already been helping people and it's worked for them. So it works.
You said you basically started off as a technical writer. Were you working for someone or were you freelance or how was that working out?
So as a technical writer, I actually worked, it was a corporate job. So I worked for a company called cPanel. They're an IT and web hosting company. So I worked it was a typical, well, when I say 9 to 5 job, I'm using that as a blanket statement of a typical full-time job. Right. I actually worked different hours because it was flexible, but basically that's what it was a typical 9 to 5 kind of job. You commute to work, go there, and then commute back, things of that nature. So it was a standard job. It wasn't freelance.
Right. What kind of technical writing were you doing? Manuals or
I was doing a lot of manuals, a lot of programming, coding type of how-to stuff, and we call them like APIs, and basically instructional guides, things of that nature for the user. And so it was either internal or external documentation. So it was good stuff. I liked my job. I had good. Yeah. It was good pay, and I liked who I worked with. It just wasn't the dream.
Right. But it was a step toward. I mean, you wanted to write full time, so that was writing full time. Yes. You had you and I had very similar experiences there. I mean, that's how I ended up as a copywriter for most of my career, because at least it was writing.
Yeah. It's funny. I had the exact same mentality. I want to write full time, and as long as I'm writing, that's still writing full time. It's just as I kind of developed that dream, it was all right, more specific. Hey, more specifically, I want to write full time novels, and so the technical writing was just I'm developing my craft still. I have a job that can pay for things while I experiment and get this up, and so as long as you're writing, technically you're writing full time. It just may not be what your ultimate goal is.
Well, and I like how you said I wanted to be more specific and full time. I wanted to write novels, but you were specific. But did you mean at that time I want to write novels for other people? Or
no.
I didn't think so.
No, so I guess I said I was specific. That's one thing that you learn is as you develop and learn and meet people and find mentors, things of that nature, and develop as a person, you learn about different opportunities. And so that at the time, my specificity was write novels full time.
Right.
What I thought was being super specific, which it was, but there could be more specificness to it. And that was where ghostwriting came about in terms of, instead of this, ghostwrite novels for other people,
Yeah.
clients, publishers, businesses, things of that nature.
Yeah. Now, so I I know that I took a lot of the experiences I had as a copywriter fed into the rest of my career. Because I was writing and I was doing marketing work, that's helped me quite a bit as an author. But the discipline of having to hit deadlines, having to be concise, that sort of thing, that stuff I carried over from copywriting, and I imagine it was pretty much the same for you, or possibly exactly the same for you.
I would say, basically the principle or the root behind every life lesson is
Hmm.
similar. It's just how you learned it and how it shaped you is slightly different and unique to each person. So for me, it's the same as you as, technical writing. You can't be flowery and
Right.
fluffy like you do with books, because for books you have to kind of add that fluff in there to kind of get it to be whatever. But with technical writing, and even with copywriting, you have to be pretty on point, short, narrow it down kind of deal. So if nothing else, I'm very descriptive. That's
Yeah.
just how I think and that's how I write. So technical writing actually helped me hone that better, so while I can still be descriptive but make it a little bit sharper because of technical writing. And then, naturally, if you're writing, whatever kind of writing it is, you're going to get your writing skills better anyway. And
Right.
then you have deadlines and you're doing it for someone else's requirements and needs. In essence, you're writing to market because you have to write what the user or your company wants. So in essence, you're kind of learning how to write the market already
Right.
for that topic. So if nothing else, even if you're not doing a writing job, you're still learning things that you can use within your actual field of writing books.
Did you find that transition to be difficult to go from technical writing to writing novels?
Nope, not at all. I think primarily just because it was harder for me to do technical writing than novel writing, only because of how my brain thinks. Like
Right.
I said, I'm very analytical, I'm very detail minded, things like that. So that's just how I think, that's how I perceive the world. And whenever I see something, my mind just goes off in a whole bunch of tangents and I start imagining stuff. So it's naturally geared towards the creative side of things, whereas technical writing is more technical, structural, factual type of things.
Right.
And so the transition was easier just because my natural personality fits with the creative side.
Right. Right.
And I was doing it at the time anyway. I was writing my own stuff at the time. And then before I actually quit, I was doing ghostwriting on the side as well. So naturally I was already doing it in my off time, which kind of helped with the transition.
So what was it that nudged you into ghostwriting though? Like you're writing novels now. You and I met, and I don't remember the specifics, man, but I do know that you had published at least one book by that point. You were promoting. We spoke at a high school together. Little things like that. I think we met at a conference at one point. I don't remember. Were we at Comic Palooza? Were you at Comic Palooza?
I don't know if I met you. I didn't meet you there officially. I met you through a mutual friend. I don't even know how we met through the mutual. Oh, here's how it was. I worked with someone who knew you, and he said, "Hey, I know this author guy that
I
writes
see.
similar books to you. You should talk to him." I reached out to you. I Facebook stalked you or something like that, and then
Yeah.
somehow we got like a joint mutual like book signing / mentoring coaching kind of gig at your old high school that you used to teach at,
Yeah.
and then I kind of spurred from there. So
Yeah.
yeah, at the time I was focusing on my own stuff, and at the time I hadn't quit my technical writing. I was still doing that. I was just writing my own stuff on the side to kind of build up to it because that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
And so I had a few different books published already. A few of them were from a small press, so traditionally published in a sense, but I was trying the self-publishing route because, I tried the traditional, it didn't really work out so much for me. Obviously I wasn't putting as much effort into it too, so kind of my fault
Right.
too. But self-publishing was a huge option, so I was like, I'm going to give this a shot. So I was focusing on it, and whenever you and I met, it was whenever I had done my 12-month experiment to see if writing was actually something I could do, would want to do, and wouldn't be burnt out. And so whenever
Right.
I met you, it was kind of towards the tail end of my 12-month experiment, which happened to be the story, the book that I was sharing with those people there. I call it 2136, which is what kickstarted my whole passion of I could do this. I'm going to make
Right.
this work before I even found out about ghostwriting.
But then how'd you fall into the ghostwriting thing? Like what was the trigger moment that brought you into that?
So I was giving self-publishing a go, And it wasn't going bad. I mean, honestly, it was good. I have high expectations for myself. I'm very competitive. So when I say it wasn't, bad, it's just, it might be good for someone else, but for me, it wasn't what I was trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was still a hobby. And to me, a hobby is, it's not bringing in enough income for you to live off of, to
Right.
break even at the minimum, to pay all your expenses. So it wasn't bringing in enough for that. It was bringing in some, which was nice, but not enough. And so I was in the process of like, well, all right, well, giving this a shot. I know people like my writing. I know I can do it. How do I get this to go more to make this a full-time income? And then I, one night, was watching a movie called Ghostwriter with Ewan McGregor in it. I have no idea what the movie ended up being about, because within the first few minutes, it was like I had an epiphany. And so it was like God said, hey, Matthew, here's the answer for you. Be a ghostwriter.
Yeah.
Why not ghostwriting? I didn't even know ghostwriting really existed at the time necessarily. I mean, there's some things in life that they exist, but
Right.
not really within your conscious frame of mind of thinking, hey, this is an option.
You don't connect it to your own experience at that.
Yeah, exactly. So at that point, it was like, God's like, hey, Matthew, here's the answer to what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So I spent the entire movie researching ghostwriting, what it is, what they do, what they charge, how to find jobs, things of that nature. I just spent the whole movie researching it. And then by the time the movie was done, I had enough information to know, hey, this is what I need to do.
Wow.
And then I went up, and after that, obviously I took different steps to kind of, all right, well, how to find those clients and start doing the work, things of that nature. And so, I can shed some light too, in terms of how I decided to actually give it a run, because it came down to the numbers.
Yeah. People like numbers.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan, but we should talk about them.
Okay. So during that that was a high level recap of kind of how I transitioned from self-publishing my own stuff to ghostwriting. But within that whole frame of mind was, okay, I knew how traditional publishing worked, and it's a great option for a few people, but not for most people. Self-publishing is a great option for a larger span of people, but it's difficult. So I think, if I remember the numbers correctly in terms of research, I think it was like less than 1% of authors that self-publish or even traditionally publish make over $1,000 in the lifetime of their books or something like that.
Right.
I think that's roughly close enough to what the statistic was. So that alone right there said that I was at a huge disadvantage already. Now, the fact that it's 1% means people are doing it. So it means it's possible. It's just unlikely unless there's a lot that goes into it. So I was like, all right, well, I know what that is now, at least. What would that, so at the time, my goal was quit my job, write full-time, writing novels, earning six figures. So $100K for a year. So in order to figure out, all right, well, I know the 1% make, $1,000 lifetime. So, okay, I know that, but what if I was one of the 1%? How many books would I need to sell to earn that $100K? And it came to roughly, and so I did it based off of, all right, well, if I sell a book for $2.99 at 70% royalties, how many do I need to sell? It became to roughly 48,000 books. And so I knew how many I was selling at the time. I also knew the percentage of people who actually do something like that or more. And I was like, all right, well, it's possible, but holy crap, that's going to be really difficult to sell 48,000 copies of books if you don't really have a platform, you're not a well-known author, things of that nature. It's possible, but it's difficult. So at least I had a starting point.
Right.
Then I took my new idea of ghostwriting. All right, now I know all that. Let's look at this other option that I didn't really know beforehand, but now is an option. What would I need to do? How many books would I need to write per month or just in general to make the 100K with that? And so at the time, I knew. So the top three things I basically tell people you have to know to even figure if that's a possibility for you is, how many words do you write per day, average? How many words per month do you write per average without burnout? And then know how much to charge per word. If you know all three of those things as an average, then you know your starting point of how you can achieve it, if you can achieve it. So at the time, I knew I could write, 150,000 words per month minimum without burnout, because I was already doing it. And that was part of my 12-month experiment. It was 1,500 words a day minimum, which quickly grew up to 5,000 words plus a day. And that's how I knew what my minimum was. So That was all before this. So I knew, all right, 150,000 words, that's my minimum. Okay, so how much do I need to charge per word to get me to my 100K mark? So I started with 2 cents a word, keeping it pretty conservative. I was like, I could probably get something for 2 cents a word. That's pretty low on the low end of things for ghostwriters. Did that, found out what it was, and real quickly, just so people can know so they don't have to do the math, that would be $3,000. 2 cents a word for 150. So that's $3,000. So at the time, my expenses were all $5,000 roughly a month. I always round up. So $5,000 a month was my expenses. That's 401k, savings, any money leaving your account, that's an expense. That's how I see it. So right there, that told me, all right, well, it's really good. $3,000 is a lot. I like that. I could pay almost all of my expenses, but it's not quite breaking even. I need to at least break even. But in order to quit, I need obviously more than breaking even to make it worthwhile, especially to convince my wife that, hey, quitting my full-time job's a good idea, So I ramped it up to, all right, well, what if I charged 3 cents a word at my current output, and now obviously that's a little bit more, and that's 4,500. So now I'm pretty much at my breaking even point. So now I know I have to charge at least 3 cents a word to break even, and that'll be okay. But I also knew that that's not what I wanted. I wanted to live an abundant life, freedom of choice and time. And I knew my wife wouldn't be okay with breaking even to quit my job. So I said, okay, well, what if I charged 5 cents a word? And now I was like, oh man, that seems like a lot. There's no one's going to pay me 5 cents a word. That's going to be crazy, But I said, all right, what is it? That is 7,500. All right, so I actually did it for 160K because I was actually writing more than 150,000 words. So 160,000 words would be 8,000. So right there, it's a 3,000 surplus over my rounding up expense thing. So I knew, okay, I have to charge at least 5 cents a word to reach my 100K goal. And so basically, if I already knew I'm writing 150, 160,000 words a month, that could either be one book that gets me my goal, or if I break it into 2 books, that's 2 books a month to get me to my goal. So basically that allowed me to know, all right, I only need to write 1 or 2 books roughly per month to earn 100K.
Right.
1 or 2 books a month is significantly easier than 48,000 books that I'd have to sell on my own doing everything. Whereas with ghostwriting, all I have to do is write it. I don't have to worry about marketing. I don't have to promote it. I don't have to do editing, formatting, cover design, everything that goes into it. I don't have to worry about it. I just have to write the book, and I don't even have to worry about if it sells. I just write it. They just pay me up front, and I'm done. Case closed. Obviously, if you write a good book and it sells well, they're going to keep hiring you on, but that's a secondary thing. You don't have to worry about that initially. It's just, so right off the bat, I knew, well, this is a no-brainer. Ghostwriting is the way for me personally to reach my goal. The ultimate goal was, to remind everybody, quit my job, write novels full-time, earning 6 figures.
Yeah. Now, it is worth pointing out, though, because you kind of brushed against this a little, but there's no residual to this. So that's the trade-off, right?
Yep.
You don't have the marketing. You don't have to worry about pushing it. You don't even have to worry whether or not it sells. You made your money on the front end. So that's the trade, because if you're publishing either as a self-published author or as a traditionally published author, all those things are very important to you. So I can see the appeal of that, but then there's also, maybe it's not a downside if you invest properly, but I mean, you're not getting any residual off of it, right?
Yeah. So that is one thing. Whenever someone's wanting to get into my coaching program or just asking me in general about ghostwriting, I try to tell them all sides of the spectrum as much as I can think of, because I thought the same way. I looked at every single avenue or vantage point that I could think of, all right, well, if I do ghostwriting, I reach my goal way faster and easier. But if I stop ghostwriting, the income disappears. There's no passive income stream coming in. So it's kind of like you have to decide, well, what's the most important initially short term to help you get to the long-term goal. So obviously the long-term would be you have a good abundance of passive income coming in to where you work minimally and you're still getting good stuff. So what I thought was, and this is how I decided it for myself, and it's an option for anyone else, is use ghostwriting as a short-term thing.
Mhm.
where, hey, you get that money up front to cover all your expenses and have surplus, and then you can use it to fund your own books. And
Right.
another thing that I used it for was to develop my craft. It's basically free training, free education. Someone's paying me
Better
to
than
get
free. Yeah.
yeah, it's better than free. It's not only free, but they're paying me really well
Right.
to write, to get better, to learn my craft so I can keep reading, go to seek mentors, do conferences, whatever it is, and actively write. Because as you write, you get better naturally. So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to keep getting better. I can work on my own stuff on the side and keep promoting that too. But at the time, this is basically funds to provide for all of that. So, a big struggle that I had and a lot of people have is, I understand that you need to market your books, but I don't have any money to market it. I need to make some sales so I can get money to market my books. So, so basically ghostwriting allows you that opportunity as well as, you need to market for your own stuff. You get
Yeah.
paid up front. You can pay all your bills and have surplus and then use that to actually use for your own stuff. That way it allows you to have the choice of, well, do it short term so that you can build up your stuff for your self-publishing your own stuff and then
Mhm.
go that route if you want to. Otherwise, you could just ghostwrite as long as you want because it pays so well.
Yeah, there are definitely people who are doing that. That's their living.
Oh yeah, they're doing even better than I am. I'm doing awesome and they're doing even better than I am because and I guess how you can see it is it's just like any other job.
Mhm.
Someone's paying you for a service kind of deal and you're providing, even if you're publishing your own stuff, in essence, you're doing, someone's paying you for your service because if those readers stop buying, then your passive income is gone. So in essence, no matter what you're doing it for someone else kind of deal. It's just depends on how you perceive it and how it
Right.
structures towards your lifestyle that you want.
Now, you're doing this, and do you have the time and energy to write your own stuff between books, or are you still doing that?
So in the beginning, so in the beginning, when I first started this, I was writing 4 to 5 books a month on average for ghostwriting. So that left basically no time for my own stuff. And at the time it was okay because, the money was coming in nice.
Mhm.
And that spoke volumes to me at the time because it allowed me to do a lot of different things.
Right.
Currently, I've actually been able to scale down in terms of workload, but increase rate. So that's one thing that you can do too as you're going is as you get better, as you become in higher demand and people are contacting you, you're not even looking for people, they contact you or referrals, then you can charge more for less work. And so you can take
Right.
on stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at now is I can take on, I don't have to take on as much stuff. I get paid the same or more depending on what it is. And so that's why I'm transitioning into coaching other people because people are asking me questions. But in terms of working on my own stuff, I'm doing more of that now because I have the time to do it. And because while I love the ghostwriting, I love coaching people more. And it would be nice also in order on top of those things to increase my own passive incomes where,
Mhm.
if I wanted to take a break for a few months to do something, I don't have to write any books.
Yeah. But
So
that's actually a good lesson for people who are thinking about this. Like you've spent all the time and energy up front to
mhm.
build the foundation so that you've got something you can offer that you can work into a passive income. So it's not just,
Yep.
I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna make 100 grand a year and then I can kick back. I mean, you got to put in the sweat equity up front
Yeah,
and
it's
then
it's
build
it's for
something.
anything. Anything. If you
Yeah.
want to make it as a self-publisher, I'm a self-published author and doing things with your own books, you're going to have to invest a lot of time and energy and learning and resources to make that possible. It's the same thing for anything. So for ghostwriting, it just happened to be that I made the decision personally to invest most of my time
Right.
into really doing. That's why I challenge myself to, like I said, I only need to write 1 or 2 a month to reach my goal, but I challenge myself to do more so I could get to a bigger goal
Hmm.
faster. So I sacrificed for those first few months writing a ton of books, more than I needed to basically earn a surplus to then use for other things down the road. And that's kind of where I'm at now, is because of that initial sacrifice in terms of time.
Right.
Now I am reaping the rewards of that hard work to be able to die down the work level while still maintaining higher rates, because now I've basically developed my ghostwriting platform, I'll say,
Hmm.
to where clients are coming to me.
Right.
And that's an easier thing to do. And then you can pick and choose to be selective of what you want to do and charge higher rates and then pay you for it. And which gives you more freedom. So it's the same thing for anything. If you're self-publishing, you work really hard in the beginning to establish your foundation. Once you get a pretty good foundation set, so for self-publishing, it's, have a platform. So maybe you have 10,000 or 1,000 avid fans. I think that's the number that people tend to go with. 1,000 avid fans, and you basically are good to go. Once you do all the work, initially get all that stuff, then you still have to put in work, but it's easier as you go because now you're used to it. You developed it. You just have to kind of minorly tweak things. And that's kind of how it is for ghostwriting and writing your own stuff. So that's where I'm at now because of the initial sacrifice.
Yeah. And you mentioned that, you don't have to do the marketing for your books, but that doesn't mean you're not marketing because you are actually having to go out and find these clients. And some of the marketing is just do the work, right? You spend all that time and energy cranking out a few books each month so that you'd have a reputation, social credibility, in other words, and you're getting referrals and that sort of thing. So some of the marketing was done up front, but you're continuously having to go out and find the clients, though.
Yeah. So in the beginning, with ghostwriting, the marketing's different to where you're not like paying for ad. I mean, you can, but you're not necessarily paying for ads to find clients to pay you to write their books. So for self-publishing, you're paying people to find your book and things of that nature. So it's a little different. But with ghostwriting, yes, you're still marketing, but it's kind of marketing yourself, sort of to a degree. So there's a site called Upwork, which I would highly recommend for anybody that wants to do any kind of freelance work, even if you don't want to do it full time, because there's millions of jobs on there to do. And that's what I use to find clients, because there's a ton of them on there just for books. And so my marketing came down to how did my profile look that basically displayed my experience, my skill, who I am as a person, so they could know if I basically would do what they wanted. Basically the goal was, if they hired me, they need to understand that the world's not about to explode in the end if they hire me. That's the whole point of the profile and the proposal. And so the profile was like the initial marketing, kind of like a passive marketing type of thing. And then the proposals were like an active marketing of, I found the job posting. If they didn't invite me, I found the job posting. I read it. I like it. Fits with my skills. Okay. And then I kind of pitch myself to them, kind of deal of how I can help them, why they should hire me to help them. And basically presenting value, because it's never about the cost. It's all about how much value can you give them, which is the same thing for your own books. If you're selling books, you're presenting value. So as long as you focus on the value, you get the stuff. And so that's kind of where the marketing is it's a different approach to marketing,
right?
But it's still the same principle kind of deal.
Right.
And naturally, because you're submitting proposals and you don't have to actively find the clients. The clients are already there on Upwork. You just have to find the ones that you like that match you, and then you send a proposal. So in essence, it's easier.
Yeah. It's wouldn't it be nice if we could do that with readers?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Wouldn't it be nice if you already had like a huge millions of readers and you just could go through and pick and select the ones that fit with what you do?
There's I'm claiming this, I'm calling it, but there's the next $1 billion idea, man. Upwork for readers. Upwork for
where you can pitch your stuff to readers.
Readers go on and they say what kind of book they want to read, and then you come along and say, I have a book like that.
Yeah. Do you want to read it?
Do you want to read it? Something tells me it wouldn't be quite that streamlined. So that's cool, man. You've got a process now for the ghostwriting, right?
In terms of how I go about finding clients or writing books. What do you mean?
The actual writing part of it. Finding clients, I think that's a suit to taste kind of thing. I think that you're using Upwork, and you could probably use other means as well.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of other places.
You mentioned advertising, and I got to tell you, man. I mean, I was a copywriter for more than for like 20 years, and I never got a client from advertising that was any good ever. If I placed an ad and got a client for copywriting, they were never a good client, and I never worked with them after that one initial time.
Well, the cool thing though about Upwork that I'm going to pitch it to people, just because roughly 50% of my income comes from it now. 100% of it came from the beginning. So it's huge. It's a very valuable resource. So I encourage people to use it or sites like it, because clients came to there,
Right.
they wrote their
That's the
job
best
list.
kind of marketing.
They're
They
they're
keep
already
looking for you.
asking.
Right.
Yeah, so if you're doing an ad like you said for copywriting, so you're pitching your services to people and they have to see it and then come to you.
Yeah.
So in essence, you have to work harder to find someone or the right people because they're not already coming saying, "Hey, we need this." Well, on
No,
Upwork
you know
or
what it is,
otherwise.
man? You mentioned it earlier. This is, in principle, writing to market.
Yep.
Most of the time, people write and they go try to find the market, or they create a service and then they go try to find the market. That's what advertising is all about, finding the market. But what you're doing is writing to market in a sense. You're going out and asking the clients who are already looking, what do you need? And they tell you, and then you say, I'll charge you this much, and they agree, and you go.
Yeah. So that's why I said it. That's why I was trying to really emphasize it's like marketing.
Yeah.
But not quite the same because
That is marketing.
They're in essence marketing themselves to you. You just have to say, I like you. Here's how I can help you. They say yes or no, and you move on.
Marketing, at its heart, marketing is about finding the right customer. Basically, improving your odds of being picked up, of being bought, of being hired. That's all marketing is. And your marketing is you're improving your odds by going on Upwork and seeking out people who are actively looking for those books.
Yep. So basically, my cost per click or cost per acquisition is really low and good.
Negative $100,000 a year.
I don't know what it is. I guess it's kind of funny to do those numbers to see what it is. But bottom line is, if you get one book paying you $5,000 and you submitted 50 proposals, just a high number, 50 proposals, and then one person, that's a really good cost per acquisition. That it costs you nothing to send those proposals because you can do Upwork for free to a degree. So it's free. So basically, if you land any work, you're already at a surplus because it didn't cost you anything to do it. So my advertising on there is really budgeting really well.
Yeah. All right. I want to talk about the actual process of writing the books then.
Okay.
So what is your actual process of writing the books then?
So what I do is I figure out what they want. I close my eyes and meditate for 2 minutes and the story just writes itself. All right. No.
That's the way
that
I
would
feel
be
about
nice.
it. That's how my books are written.
Yeah. So, all right. Let me see how I can kind of break this down so that's a little bit more practical.
You don't have to give trade secrets here.
It's nothing like that. It's just more of, all right, I don't want to be vague and say, oh, well, I brainstorm about the idea. I picture it like a movie in my head and then I write it, because that's not really helpful for people. Yeah. So I'll kind of have high level and then kind of break it down into small things that are a little bit more practical for people. So high level, how I work in terms of my mind is I think of an idea. So let's say a client says, I want you to write a post-apocalyptic story set in the year 2300, half the population's gone or whatever, however much they want to tell me for the idea. Okay, write this for me.
Right.
And so if they give me details like that, or they say, hey, I just want a post-apocalyptic story, you come up with everything else and you have creative freedom. So a lot of clients do that. So then I sit there and think, all right, well, if I was going to write this story, what do readers expect? So you have to know the tropes of those genres or subgenres. Mm-hmm. And then from there I go, well, you always want to write to like one reader. What is your optimal reader? So my optimal reader is me. Okay. What would I like to read? Right. And that's just that's the easiest way for me to figure out what would someone want to read is, well, what would I want to read in this genre? And so I pretend that I'm writing to myself. And so that frees me up then to not be restricted on what I write. I just basically, it says, all right, I write with whatever I think is appropriate to me, based off if you have morals where you don't want to do cursing in your books, don't do cursing. Right. If you don't want to have, a lot of sex, things of that nature, or make erotica, don't do it. So that's kind of what makes it easier. It frees me up to know, here are my parameters that I've set for myself.
Right.
And I write within those things. So that's one thing that's practical for you, is know what your personal restrictions are. And I don't mean restrictions as a negative thing. It's just, what are your guidelines of, do you like writing love scenes? Okay, write those. If you don't write them. If you're okay with cursing in your things, then write it. If you don't, then don't write it. And so if you set up those kind of guidelines for yourself ahead of time, then it frees you up to know exactly what you're willing to write, because there's readers for everything. You could be as specific and nitpicky as you want, and there still will be people that will read it. Yeah. So in essence, you're not restricting your readership. You're actually narrowing it down, which is going to help you sell more books if you're doing your own stuff.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I'm sorry.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say that it's surprising to me to hear you talking about writing fiction, ghostwriting fiction, because my immediate assumption is always that ghostwriting is for nonfiction. So you have people seeking you out to write their novels.
That's how I started, was writing fiction. I'm doing a combination now of fiction and nonfiction, more nonfiction now because it just pays more. It's a little easier, so it's less work. But starting off, and I still do, fiction writing. So, for example, let's say you were looking for a ghostwriter. Someone like you would say, hey, I want to write this series or whatever. Can you write it for me, kind of deal? And then you kind of go through it and tweak it to fit your style and voice for your readership. Or there's publishing houses who are finding ghostwriters on there. I've had publishing houses hire me to write books for them, and then they publish them under their pen names. And so that's kind of how it works for fiction. Is it could be someone wanting to write their book for the first time, they need help. It could be a publishing house or a small press or whatever it is, or another author like you who's doing well that just wants to produce more stuff or free up their time to do other things.
Right.
So that's where it started. So there's a lot of people hiring for fiction books, especially romance. Oh my gosh. If I don't write romance, I mean, I can, but I just don't enjoy it, so I don't really do it.
Yeah.
But if you write romance, I am telling you, contact me right now. I can send you probably a ton of jobs that you could probably get depending on your writing skill. If you can write just average, you're going to get a job. There's a ton of them out there. And those are largely small presses, publishing houses. And so it's not just nonfiction. Nonfiction happens to pay significantly more just because of the how it is.
Well, it's generally backed by a business.
Yeah. So nonfiction tends to be a business owner, a corporation, a celebrity, something like that, to where they're not trying to use it to bring in income. I mean, books will bring in income, but for them, it's all about funneling people to their higher ticket items, consulting, coaching, whatever they're selling. The book is to funnel people to that. And that's one reason why it pays more, so, but not fiction can pay just as well, especially if you write, romance or erotica. There are some people paying 10 to 15, 25 cents a word for romance, or especially like erotica or something like that, if you do it really well. So it's not to say that, nonfiction pays more all the time. It's just as a percentage, nonfiction will pay you more, but fiction.
You and I have talked about this too. I mean, even though writing novels is what I do, I would actually find it more difficult to write a novel for somebody than to write nonfiction for them if I were doing this.
Yeah.
So
it seems like and we talked about it because it just, for us, it's like if we write fiction, we're a little bit more personally invested into the characters.
Right.
For whatever reason. I don't even know why we feel that way, but we are. And with nonfiction, somehow we just tell ourselves it's kind of like we're writing a history book or something for education, and it's different. I don't really know what it is.
I think I can break it down as to why that is for me, because if I'm creating fiction, it's a very personal experience, right? You're delving into yourself for characterization, for even just descriptions of things. This is all coming from your experience, the filter of you. Whereas if I'm writing nonfiction for somebody, they're the subject matter expert. They're going to tell me what it is they need to say and how they need it to be perceived and what the goal is. I'm not generally crafting all that from scratch. I'm working from their model. So it's their property. I'm just expressing it on their behalf. That's the way I perceive it.
That's a really good way to put it. And that makes sense for me. Like, even though when you're writing nonfiction, you're still putting your own agenda to keep it high level out there, because you can't fully retract yourself from it.
Right.
But it's largely writing it within their vision. So in essence, it frees you up. So that makes sense.
That's more collaborative to me.
I will agree with that. Yeah. I like that.
All right. Well, we're coming up on time, man. This has been, I know these things go so much faster than people think they're going to go. I remember I interviewed Steve Barry, and before the interview I said, well, I keep, I did the spiel with you, but like I keep the interview under 45 minutes, and he's like 45 minutes. I hope you've got enough questions to last that long. And before it was all said and done, I mean, he went over the time.
Yeah. We're basically almost there. And I felt like it was just 5 or 10 minutes.
That's right.
I feel like I'm like, did I say enough to help people do this?
You totally did.
I need to say more so I can help them.
So you're going to be introducing some materials around this, like a course and some other stuff, right?
Yeah. So the course is called a Six-Figure Ghostwriter. It's a 12-month mentoring program. It's by application only. So even if you wanted to pay me $50,000, you couldn't get into it unless you applied and were accepted. So,
I will pay you $50,000 if you let me in this program.
I'd be really tempted. I'm not going to lie. But because if I was, and that's one thing that's a blessing for me, is that because I'm doing well with ghostwriting stuff, I am able to then really narrow in on who I helped so that they get optimal results. So basically the promise is for that course is within 2 months of joining and being accepted, you will land your first job. Mm-hmm. Within 4 months, you will have be in contract or earned your investment plus 25%. Mm-hmm. And then by the end of month 6, if you continue to follow what I'm teaching, things of that nature, you will be on track to earning 6 figures for the year. If those 3 things are not met, I give you your investment back and I give you an extra $1,000. So that's one reason why it's really selective is we can only take on a few people at a time that are very motivated writers that want to do this, because there's a lot of work involved. It's just, I'm going to give you the shortcuts to bypass a lot of the hurdles and obstacles. And I have clients already looking for people. So like we talked about earlier a little bit briefly, we alluded to it at least, is that I get a lot of invites weekly that I've been declining or aren't a good fit for me because I'm just too busy or I don't want it.
Right.
Now I'm trying to give those to people. So that's when I say, if you get accepted, we're moving quickly. So it's a year-long program to basically help you get there, to teach you how to scale your business. The whole program is for the business, but initially it's getting work fast. It's all about moving quickly. So if you're not ready to move quickly and things of that nature, then that's obviously why it's not right for you. But that's why we have the application. The application does more than just ask questions. The questions are strategically placed and asked to get you thinking about, is this really something I want to do? Is this something that really could help me out? Am I ready for it? And then based off of their responses, I learn then about them, their personality, and then how I can best help them.
Right.
So,
right. So, okay, where can people find you or let's start with the program. Where can people find you?
So the program, Six-Figure Ghostwriter, the 12-month mentoring program, if you type in sixfigureghostwriter.com/apply, you'll get access to the application. And the application doesn't cost anything. It's extensive. Yeah. I mean, it'll take you some time to do it, but it's intended, like I said, to get you thinking about it for yourself and then help me. And then after that, obviously, if you get accepted, you'll find out within 48 hours, and then we'll walk you through that. The other option, if you aren't interested in the mentoring program, maybe you're just getting started off and you haven't written a book before and you want to kind of figure it out. I also have a private Facebook group that's free, to where I use it specifically for that purpose, where you can come in, learn about ghostwriting. Maybe you have no idea what it is, what it entails. You can ask questions, connect with other people, things of that nature. And so it's basically, I use it to offer advice, like high level advice, guidance, things of that nature. Sometimes I post in jobs in there that I see that might help. They're really quick jobs, things of that nature, that help people out. So it's nothing super extensive like the mentoring program. The mentoring program is hands-on, walk you through it step by step, the whole process.
Right.
And the group on Facebook is basically just high level type of things of that nature to help you along the way. But the Facebook group is called the Author Roadmap to Ghostwriting.
Okay. All right. Well,
so those are basically the 2 options that people have if they want to consider ghostwriting.
I think I have an affiliate link that I probably need to throw in the mix somewhere. I need to do that.
Yeah.
So I can get these 6-figure authors paying me a little. That's my passive income stream.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, if you have a chance to do it, for anyone listening, if you have a chance to do it like affiliate type programs, it's a good way to do 2 things. Get a little extra income as a buffer. That's always nice. But the main thing that's really nice about it is you're just helping share knowledge with people, because that goes to the abundant mindset that I teach. That's one thing I teach. I teach mindsets, things of that nature, not just practical stuff to earn six figures, but how to actually think it and to become it. You
Right.
can't just make six figures if you don't believe you're capable of it. So that's part of it too. So affiliate type things kind of goes into that too, as you're sharing the abundance and wealth with others, because everybody wins. It's not, if I help this person, I lose. It's no, everybody can win. And that's part of it. So if you can do it, definitely do it.
Yeah, man. All right. I'm going to put the affiliate version of, you can go ahead and go to the website if you feel like it, folks, but
Yeah, but
I'm going to
I
put
would
my
encourage
affiliate
you,
link.
if you're interested in submitting an application to the program, use his link so that he can kind of,
There you
feel
go.
a little bit from it as well. So I encourage that. Otherwise, I would encourage you to go to the Facebook group, the Author Roadmap to Ghostwriting, to learn about stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, check that out. All right. You'll find links to all that and more in the show notes of this episode. If you're on YouTube, look down below you, buddy. It's
Yep.
right there. And hop on over to wordslingerpodcast.com. Find this episode, the interview with Matthew Thrush, and you're definitely going to check that out. Matthew, I appreciate you being on the show, man. This is inspiring. It always makes me like, maybe I should ditch everything and go ghostwriting.
Hey, I'm going to try to keep convincing you. Or if nothing else, I'm just going to be like, hey, hire me.
I don't know, man. It sounds like work.
Well, it is work, but the good thing is that if you love it, it's kind of like, well, is it really work? It's still work, but it's fun work.
Yeah. I like this as, if my books ever start to kind of tank or whatever, this sounds like
hard to do.
It could happen. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. And this sounds like a great backup plan. And heck, I may do it just for the heck of it. Who knows?
Just to try it out.
I've done some ghostwriting before. Yeah. All right, man. You stick around. Everybody else, right now, you're probably hearing the groovy theme music. You may dance in place at will, and if you'll stick around, you're going to hear some industry news and maybe some fun facts. Heck, I may be doing impressions for all you know. So we'll see you on the other side of this break. Matthew Thrush, thank you for being on the show.
Your book the way it was meant to be heard, with a fully custom soundtrack based on your material, an album of music that perfectly fits your characters, your settings. Hear your book today. SonataInscribe.com.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Matthew Thrush. I hope you got something useful out of that. If you're thinking about the six-figure ghostwriting opportunity here, you should reach out to Matthew. You should check out, we'll have links to his stuff in the show notes of this episode, so go there. I'm fascinated by this. I'd love to hear what you think of it. What do you think about the whole ghostwriting career and lifestyle? To me, it's if you just want to make your living as a writer, this is a pretty dependable way to do that. And I think, he makes some guarantees and some promises about the program he's got, and I've known him long enough to trust him on that stuff. Sometimes you run into people you don't know for sure whether you should throw the kind of money at things that people ask for. I actually think that what he's offering is a good program at a good price, especially with what he's promising you'll come out with at the end. So check that out. Excuse me, sorry about that. And like I said, you'll find I've got links that are going to show up in the show notes. Let me see. Let me run through here real quick. You can follow him, by the way, on Twitter at GNK01 Thrush. Gink01 Thrush. I don't know what that stands for, but go check that out. You can check out sixfigureghostwriter.com. Let him know that the Wordslinger podcast sent you. I don't get anything out of that, but I like people to know when they're getting a little bit of play and promotion out of the show. So now this, now that I'm sorry, I keep clearing my throat in your ear. I'm gonna do it one last time there. This past couple of weeks has been great. I'm back from Seattle. We were in Seattle. Hold on, I'm gonna mute you. If you were watching the video, you got to see me cough. Anyway, I'm back from Seattle. We spent a week there. We were in Seattle and Redmond. I got to tell you, that was a beautiful city. It's the whole area. Redmond's gorgeous. It's a little pricey everywhere we went. You know, it's sort of, if you were going to eat a meal, it's going to be like a minimum of $15 per person. So we got used to that pretty quick. But, we started looking around. I'm like, I know cost of living is higher here, but it's actually not that much higher than what I'm used to where we are. We can get comparable stuff. I'm starting to look at that. I'm like, maybe. Maybe I'll move to Seattle or Redmond. Great city. Had an interesting event. I had one. So Kara and I were walking back from dinner one night. We had found a coffee place. Now here's an interesting fact about Seattle. Seattle, coffee capital of the United States, possibly the world. Starbucks is from Seattle. There's a coffee shop. There's usually at least 2 coffee shops in every ground floor of every building. We were in Pioneer Square. We got a cup of coffee at the only place that was open past 6 o'clock in an entire area. Now it's a business park kind of area. Not business park, but it's a lot of high rises and businesses over there. So they tend to close the coffee shops at 6. We found a place that was open until 6:30. So, party on. But we got a cup of coffee. We were walking back to our hotel, and we're walking by the stadium, CenturyLink Stadium there, where the Seahawks play, by the way. No way to miss that. And this guy comes rolling up, and he's in a convertible, and he's got his stereo blaring, heavy bass, serious 1990s type stuff. Okay, we're talking about the architecture of the buildings around us, the coffee, the pleasant night. And this dude rolls up and says, he literally pulls up, blaring his radio a few feet from us, then looks up at me and gives me a sup. I'm like, sup, man? What's going on? And he says, yo, man, why you looking at me? And I said, I was just looking over to see where the music was coming from, man. And he squints at me and says, oh, I thought you were Mexican. And then he leaves. Now, the thing that got us was he took off his sunglasses and his eyes were all bugged out and everything. And he was seriously ready to throw down or something. So that was the one and only negative experience I had in Seattle. And I thought it was kind of funny, especially since this dude, like, sopping wet, was maybe 110 pounds. I could have broken him in half with one hand. So I wasn't entirely worried about him. And he looked crazy. I think he was on something. So pot is legal in Seattle, I discovered. So so who knows? Pot's legal in Canada now. That's me drinking some water. That's a cool story. Pot's legal in Canada. I'm gonna just say I have no problem with pot being legal. I think pot should be legal. I've never tried pot. I've never smoked it. I've never consumed it in any way. Reading up on it, I think there's probably some health benefits for marijuana that we're missing out on. I know there are. I actually had a physical therapist recommend using pot to me because none of the treatments I'm getting are working for my neck and shoulders and that sort of thing. So, maybe if they legalize it here in the Houston area, or here in Texas, or in the U.S. altogether, maybe I'll give it a shot for once. Who knows? So anyway, never tried it, but maybe the dude was on pot. I don't know. Does pot make you crazy? I don't think pot makes you crazy like that. He must have been on something else. Something a little stronger. Anyway, so Seattle was a blast. If you're from the Seattle area, if you gave me some tips on where to go for events and activity and dinner and that sort of thing, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I hit up a bunch of people on Facebook and got a lot of feedback. We did some great stuff. We went to the Space Needle, of course. There's a whole little park area around there that actually has a very Disney vibe, we discovered. So we hung out there, and we went to the Mopop, to the Museum of Pop Culture. And then specifically, I wanted to see the Marvel Universe exhibit there, which was amazing. So we had a great time. That was our final day. But throughout the week, I wandered around the city, found different coffee shops and cafes and things to write from, bookstores. Went to some pretty iconic places. We were at the public market there. Pike's Market, I think is what they call it. I went to the very first Starbucks, Mecca, as I call it. Everyone's always, every time I mention Starbucks, by the way, on Facebook, everyone's like, "Well, get some real coffee. Go get some good coffee." And I don't fully disagree with you. Starbucks is special to me, and I enjoyed hanging out there. So I went to the first Starbucks. I went to one of the Starbucks reserves, the reserve stores, where you could do like a flight of coffees, and that is very different than doing a flight of beers. You come out with a very different buzz. In fact, I'm still in Seattle and doing this podcast from there forward in time. I projected myself forward in time because I had so much caffeine. Anyway, loved it. Might consider moving to that area. It's beautiful there. A lot of activities, real close by, and the people were just fantastic. People, just nice. Everyone I met. I mean, even Bug-Eye Guy apologized to us. Said he thought I was Mexican, but apologized to us and then left. Oh, sorry, I thought you were Mexican. Polite thugs. Anyway, so coming up, I'll be in early November. So I think in a couple of weeks, actually. I'll be at 20 Books to 50K in Vegas. I'll be hanging out with Michael Enderle and maybe Craig Martell. I think he had a family tragedy, so he may not make it there. But Dan Wood and Mark Lefebvre from Draft Digital will be there with me. We're all gonna hang out. I know Diane Capri. I'm trying to get her on the show. I don't know what the hang up there is. And she's writing in the Jack Reacher universe, so. I'd really like to talk to her about that experience. I'm trying to get my buddy Ernie Dempsey to go, but he's on vacation. But Nick Thacker is going to be there. Now, I have this theory because me, Ernie, and Nick can never be in the same place at the same time. We are never all three in the same place at the same time, which leads me to believe that Nick and Ernie are actually the same person. Throw in some disguises. So that's my theory. Prove me wrong, Nick. Prove that I'm off base. One more drink of water. Refreshing water. So we're gonna be there. I'll be in Oklahoma City in December for Drafted Digital. Drafted Digital, by the way, this month, October, end of the month, 28th of October. We are moving our offices. We're still going to be in Oklahoma City, but they're going to move closer to downtown Oklahoma City. Just a few minutes from Bricktown, which is where I like to hang out when I'm there. So if you're in Oklahoma, if you're in that area and you're in Oklahoma City, I'm going to be at the new offices for a few days at least around Christmas time. The 24th, I believe, or the 14th. I'll check on that. I'll get you some dates, but we're gonna rock out our little Christmas party there, like we do every year, and then I'm gonna just hang out. I'm gonna be at the offices, and if you happen to live or work in that area, maybe we can get together, have a little dinner or something. It is going to be the week preceding the 14th, and then my wife will fly up on that day, probably the 13th, which is a Thursday, and then we'll be together through. We're going to come home on Saturday, but I'm going to actually drive to Oklahoma City this time. I think I got to get a hotel though. I just remembered. But yeah, our Christmas party will start right around then, and that's going to be fun. So anyway, that's what's going on. We got other stuff happening toward the front end of 2019. So if you're going to be at any of these conferences, I'm going to be at the San Francisco Writers Conference next. I guess that's sheesh. I can't remember any of them. but I'm going to be there. And if you're going to be at the San Francisco Writers Conference, let me know. We got other events coming up on the West Coast too. I'm trying to pepper us into the West Coast, kind of negate the Smashwords presence there. I think people are getting a little tired of Smashwords anyway. So happy to fill that void. This week's blog post, by the way, on draftedigital.com/blog is Indie Like You. If you get a chance, go read that and comment on that. What I did was I wrote sort of a love letter to Draft Digital. You know, I love the company. I start the whole post by saying that I'm a DDD fanboy, and I am. It's just been a fantastic experience for me. If you are an indie author and you're looking to go wide, this is truly the best way to go. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages to any aggregator, and Draft Digital's no exception to that, because we have our strengths and we have our weaknesses. The thing about us is we're continuously working on the weaknesses. Like, we're working on shifting this so that we are producing something a little higher end with each passing year. That's our modus operandi. That's our MO. So, you know, for example, you know, we know that we don't hit every storefront that everyone wants. We're working on that though, and there are some out there. It's been a challenge. Google Play, for example, has been a challenge because our problem with Google Play is that they will randomly adjust pricing to just whatever they want. And they have an automated system that is geared around the idea of beat out Amazon. So you end up in this perpetual cycle of, you know, Amazon lowers your price without your control. Google lowers the price to beat Amazon. Amazon won't be outmatched, so it lowers its price. And you end up going to zero as quick as possible, and you get nothing. So what's the advantage there? That's just one of the troubles of Google Play. We know some groups are out there. They've figured out how to get Google Play to work, and they're kind of cheating the system, breaking the rules a little. We're going to figure something out on our end and get this going. We already have a contract with Google Play. We've been waiting. We've been trying to get Google to address some of the concerns we have so that we're delivering something our authors can use that isn't going to rip them off somehow. So, you know, if we don't have a sales channel, really it's because we're vetting it. Honestly, I mean, if we don't have a sales channel, it's because we're trying to protect you from something we think is going to be a problem. Some people want to roll the dice. We get that. So we're working on little things like that. Other, you know, some of the services out there are offering features. One in particular. So there is a provider, an aggregator, that's now offering a. You'll know who they are if you follow this. If you don't already follow this, I don't know if I want to give them any free play here. All right. Well, let's just talk about Publish Drive. Publish Drive has rolled out a service where you would pay like $100 and you'd get all of your royalties. Instead of them taking a cut of your royalties, you get all your royalties. Now, if you're a big roller in this, there's an advantage to this. Like if you're making more than $1,000 a month on book sales through these guys, there could be some advantages there. So I could see where that would appeal to that group. Here's the problem. We've done the math on this. Now, they got a big stipend from Google. It's like a $10 million grant or something. And that's how they're doing this. They're basically taking a loss in order to attract as many authors as they can. We've kind of looked. They've more or less built their business model around what they observed us doing right. We've figured it out. But we've also figured out that there's no way that this is sustainable. In fact, it's going to crash at some point. We've seen this kind of thing happen before. And what they'll do is attract enough authors over to make, you know, their hope is they get all the big name authors to come over. And then down the way, they can change the terms of this service or whatever, and they'll already have those authors in. Because there's no way for them to be profitable and to remain profitable. I mean, just do the math. Do the very basic math. You're charging $100 instead of charging 10%. Okay. Now, if your author's only making around $1,000, then everybody's coming out pretty even. If your authors are making $30 or $40 or $50,000 a month on book sales or more, and you're only making $100, right? So you don't see any growth. You end up folding. And the problem is, when that happens, now the whole system has been damaged by this. So, potentially, maybe Draft2Digital can't compete and it goes under. I don't think that's going to happen. We like to diversify, so we're going to be okay. So we're already building the tools that it's going to take to handle the influx of authors. We learned from our Pronoun experience. When Pronoun went down because they were doing things nobody else could match, and it was essentially taking advantage of Macmillan's deal with Amazon. And when Amazon finally called them on it and shut it down, Macmillan shut down Pronoun. That's what happened. And the same sort of thing's going to happen with this service, because you can't continuously charge only $100 from the handful of authors who are making big money and expect your business to keep going. I mean, we'd lose a lot of money doing that ourselves. We can't match that deal. And we wouldn't try to, because we know ultimately it's going to be damaging to people. Sorry, it is. And it really is. It's going to eventually cause chaos. The authors who move over to take advantage of that program will find themselves suddenly having to shift gears all over again and go back to Draft2Digital or whoever they were using before. And or go direct or whatever. So you get no real advantage other than a small window of maximizing your profits. And for some, that's totally worth it. I'd say though that if you're not making $10,000 or more a month in book sales, there's really no point at all in throwing $100 at these guys each month. And ultimately, it's just gonna burn out, and they're gonna have to do something else to keep their business going. So the point of that is, there's a lot of opportunity for growth and expansion and innovation in this business. And Draft2Digital is always looking at how it can up the game. Go check out my post, my little love letter post. Go to, if you go to draft2digital.com/blog, right now it's the featured post. But if you go to /blog/indie-like-u, and that's the that's the full URL. Indie Like You. If you go look that up, take a look, because what I did was I wrote about what I think is the why of Draft2Digital, and I think our why stems from the important fact that we are just like you. I mean, I'm an indie author. Mark Lefebvre is an indie author. Aaron Pogue, one of our founders, is an indie author. But then we got a bunch of indie spirited guys and gals on staff, who are not authors, but who embody that same spirit. They are writers of code. They are writers of support, author support. We get support requests from people who aren't even our customers. We can't help them usually, but someone has a problem with Amazon or someone has a problem with Apple or whatever. They hear through the grapevine that, we're a good source of information. So they come and ask for our help. We often can't help them unless they're distributing through us. But, if we can, we will. I've helped plenty of people resolve problems whenever I could. So we have some amazing people on the team. That was the point of that post, and I'm really excited about what we're doing. We got some cool stuff coming up for the rest of the year. We're going to be doing a lot of releases. At NINC, I announced D2D Print. I announced D2D Shared Universes, so we've got that stuff going, and then a whole bunch of new stuff besides. So be sure you're checking us out. Be sure you're signed up for Draft2Digital so you can get our. If you sign up for an account, you'll be on our mailing list. That's really a good way to go. There's no obligations there. You don't have to distribute through us at all. You don't have to use us at all. But you might want to have an account ready, because it makes it a lot easier when when one of these other services folds or whatever. We saw it with Pronoun. We saw it. I mean, Pronoun went under unexpectedly and with a very fast announcement. right as we were adding Amazon as one of our sales channels. And man, we had a rough few months trying to make sure everybody was taken care of. And we got through it, and everybody ended up better off. And that's great. But, you know, it just shows. I mean, we are very tied into this industry. That's one of the reasons why we brought Mark on. That's one of the reasons I'm on. Dan Wood is very threaded into the pulse of the industry. We all know the community and the industry because we are all indies ourselves, and we understand how this works, and we understand how the business itself works, and we can tell you at a glance that model's not going to work, that's not going to work. That will be okay. We'll tell you. So anyway, exciting stuff. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Wordslinger podcast. I actually had some technical difficulty. If you noticed a shift in the camera position and lighting and that sort of thing on the YouTube channel, it came because I don't know, man. I keep upgrading equipment and spending money on new gear and then end up with a worse product, and I don't understand what's happening there. I end up with, I effectively quadrupled the processing power and RAM that I was using on our computer to produce this. I got a whole new system, much more powerful than what I was using originally, and I have had more hangups and more glitches because of that. Maybe I was just better off. So anyway, take care of yourselves. I hope you're having a great time. God bless you. I'm probably going to be around next week, but just in case, well, I'll see you next time. And hope you have a fantastic week ahead. God bless you in your careers and everything you do. And I'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Wordslinger podcast. Now, you can support this show by visiting wordslingerpodcast.com. That's where you're going to find back episodes, books by me, and links to anything and everything Wordslinger. And be sure to subscribe to this show on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, and anywhere else fine podcasts are sold. I'm Kevin Tomlinson. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.